if you walked into a restaurant, you were never served a meal, but you paid the bill anyway and added a big tip and sent off the bill to the taxpayer. Of the worst housing crisis in the world, the government has failed to live up to its promise to sell off federal land and buildings for housing. It takes them 8 years to sell a property, 8 years. It is the same Liberal ministers, the same Liberal gang. Get our money back. They need to go to GC Strategies and get our money back. Today's Auditor General's report, which I have today in my hands, today's Auditor General's reports, I should say, are a chronicle of Liberal incompetence and an orgy of Liberal waste. We have here GC Strategies, the company the Liberals gave over 100 separate contracts from 31 different departments, which is under RCMP investigation. The contracts were for IT, even though GC Strategies does not actually do IT work. We all remember this is the same contractor that did the unnecessary and useless COVID app that was way over budget and could have been completed for a fraction of the cost. We now know that in other contracts, the government overpaid. They often didn't even check what the market rate was for the services that they were buying. Quote, actions of the federal government frequently did not demonstrate value for money. Federal government made payments without evidence that all the deliverables were received. Translation, they paid even when they didn't see that the job was done. So 46% of the contracts examined, there was no evidence that the work was completed, and yet the government paid for it. It'd be like if you walked into a restaurant, you were never served a meal, but you paid the bill anyway and added a big tip and sent off the bill to the taxpayer. That's what Liberals have done with your money in this case. So now, who's responsible? Well, Public Safety Minister LeBlanc was at the time, Public Safety Minister who helped get these contracts out. Now he's been promoted in the Liberal government. You've got Patty Hajdu, who was the Health Minister that kicked off the ArriveCan app. She as well has been promoted. And then you've got F-35s. Liberal mismanagement of the process has now driven up costs by 50% or $9 billion. The infrastructure delays are going to mean we need 2 fighter squadrons slated for completion in 2031, more than 3 years late, forcing extra spending on interim facilities. They haven't recruited enough pilots to fill the gap. They've got weak project management, risk management, and coordination plans remain incomplete and slow. And the bottom line is that rising costs, construction delays, staffing gaps, weak oversight threaten the ongoing introduction of the fighter jets. And who was responsible for that? Well, Anita Anand was one of the defense ministers who helped bring about this boondoggle. She has been promoted in this government. So in all of these cases, you have promotions for those who caused the problem. Now finally, you've got federal land for housing. In the middle of the worst housing crisis in the world, the government has failed to live up to its promise to sell off federal land and buildings for housing. They said in 2017, half of their buildings and land were underused or vacant, and yet only 2% of it has been disposed of for homes. They've built only 309 homes, 90% short of the 4,000 they promised. It takes them 8 years to sell a property, 8 years. You've got $3.9 billion we could be bringing in over the next decade if we sold off these buildings and avoided having the operational costs of them. And the fact that they've missed these targets means that there are countless young people who can't afford homes, single mothers who pay higher rent, seniors choosing between eating and heating because the cost of housing is out of control. Again, the housing minister who caused this disaster has now been promoted to Liberal Minister of Justice. So it is the same Liberal ministers, the same Liberal gang, making the same Liberal mistakes that cost Canadians a fortune. And that is why we are calling for accountability. We're calling on the government to get our money back. They need to go to GC Strategies and get our money back so taxpayers can be made whole. We must ensure our government spends money wisely to protect the taxpayers, to make sure this is a country where hard work pays off, with a great life in a beautiful home on a safe street.
What do you make of the fact that public servants are not being held accountable for failing to check that this work, like, signing these contracts and never checking that the work's going to be done? Should there be punitive measures here?
Well, yes. I mean, anybody who did that should be fired, but the politicians should be held accountable as well. I mean, I just finished listing all of the Liberal ministers that were in charge of these various departments that went ahead and spent this money even though it was unnecessary. I mean, look at Patty Hajdu. We said that the ArriveCan app was unnecessary, and they went ahead and used it anyway. We didn't need it. It didn't do any good, and it cost a fortune. Why was she not held accountable instead of promoted by Mark Carney? Why was Dominic LeBlanc, who was the public safety minister, not held accountable? Why was Sean Fraser promoted after he made these mistakes? This Liberal government is in a habit of promoting politicians who waste people's money and screw up people's lives.
Sur les F-35, le gouvernement canadien dit qu'il repense le contrat. On va recevoir les 8 premiers avions, mais pour les autres, à cause de ce qui se passe avec M. Trump, pas certain. Vous pensez quoi de ça et vous feriez quoi?
C'est le temps de publier la revue pour qu'on puisse savoir ce que le gouvernement a pris. Évidemment, on a besoin des avions de chasse, c'est sûr. On ne peut pas avoir d'autres délais, on ne peut pas avoir d'autres coûts supplémentaires pour recevoir rien. Donc, on doit voir le résultat de cette revue dès maintenant.
Mais vous en pensez quoi?
C5, M. Poilievre, est-ce que C5 doit être scindé en deux entre la partie 1 sur la mobilité de la main-d'œuvre et la partie 2 sur les pipelines et bâtir le Canada, comme le propose le Bloc québécois?
Nous les discutons demain. Ce qu'on voit qu'avec la mobilité de main-d'œuvre et de produits à travers le Canada, c'est vraiment pas un projet de loi signifiant. Il n'y a presque aucun projet ni travailleur qui sera touché par ça. Donc, cet aspect de la loi ne fait presque rien. En ce qui concerne le reste, nous allons le discuter demain au caucus.
Spending 5% of GDP on defense spending. That's going to be the new target for NATO.
What's that? I didn't hear you.
Would the Conservative support spending 5% of GDP on defense?
I don't know any of our allies that are spending that sum right now. I'm aware of promises being made, but I mean, the Americans, I think, are at 3.4. That's actually down from 3.6 because of the DOGE process they brought in. But we want more money for defense. We want to rebuild our armed forces. The other thing we want to focus on is value for money. So let me give you, here we have the report on the fighter jets. There we go. Oh, you got a second one, just in case. Just in case I want to read it twice, he's got a second copy. But here you are with this report. If you have another 10 or 15 boondoggles like this, you can probably hit the 5%. So the question we have to ask ourselves, is the goal to push out as much money as possible, or is the goal to have the best equipped, the best trained, and the best quality of life for our military? And I think it's the latter.
Sur les F-35, est-ce qu'on les abandonne? Vous n'avez pas
You want to add
répondu.
anything?
Est-ce qu'on abandonne
This is
les
the former
F-35?
chair, and he deserves some credit for bringing this to light.
Look, I'll just say I'm looking forward to the committee sitting as soon as possible once it's reconstituted later this week. As you know, we brought to light a lot of the findings around ArriveCan. I think the committee work resulted in the government promising to get money back. We want to see how they've done on that. Similarly, I think it initiated a number of the police investigations. We'd like updates on that. We have more work to do on the Green Slush Fund, and today's reports from the auditor give us more work to do going ahead as well. And odds had our Treasury Board critic as well, Stephanie Kuzi.
Thank you. The Auditor General made it very clear that the rules are clear, and yet the Liberals seem to be incapable of following the rules and enforcing the rules. Likewise, this House passed a motion whereby we agreed that we should get the money back, and yet we have yet to see assent from GC Strategies. When are we going to get our money back? When are Canadians going to get their money back? These are questions we still need answers to from this Liberal government.
What do you make of the border? What do you make of the border security? What do you make of the border?
One thing I should say, she's absolutely right. We need to get the money back for
What do
taxpayers.
you make of the border security bill that was tabled last week, Bill C2? You haven't offered your views on it. Can you give us?
Well, we support a stronger border. We want severe limits on population growth to reverse the damage the Liberals did to our system. The population has been growing out of control. Our borders have been left wide open. This has caused the free flow of drugs, human trafficking, illegal migration, and much worse. And that is why we want a stronger border. We want to crack down on abuses in the immigration system. and we want to ensure that, that any frauds in the refugee system are reversed. Those are the things we're looking at, but we're also going to study the bill carefully to make sure that, long-standing Canadians who are following the law are not having their rights and freedoms violated.